Good morning, good morning, good morning. The time for convening has arrived. The city will come to order. At this time, I will ask all unauthorized personnel to exit the chamber. I recognize the distinguished senator from the 28th, and it looks like he has a special guest over his shoulder. Thank goodness his mother is here today to try to keep him in check today. So let's give Miss Brass a round of applause here. Lord knows she had her hands full with this one.
You have no idea. Well, actually, you might have a little idea. You knew me in college. Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. Yes, it is Bring Your Mother to Work Day today, so I'm glad to know I was the only one that participated. It's also National Puzzle Day. It's National Corn Chip Day. But one big day this is on this day in 1892, the Coca-Cola Company was incorporated right here in Atlanta, Georgia. So, big day today in Georgia's great history. And we're making new history with some great pages we have here with us today. We have Charlie Smith out of Conyers, Georgia. We have Jasper Mealer out of McKaysville. And we have Darcy Simmons from Milledgeville. Y'all give our pages a big round of applause. We appreciate y'all being here. I know it was tough for y'all to have to get out of school, and you're going to miss school today, but we appreciate you sacrificing that to be with us and serve with us today. Mr. President, the journal has been read and found to be correct only because my mama was here to make me do my homework.
All right. Is there objection to the dispensing of the reading of the journal? Chair hears none. The reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? Chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators who have bills and resolutions to introduce, please bring them to the Secretary's desk at this time. First reading and references to Senate bills. Secretary?
Senate Bill 409 by Senator Alberts of the 56th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 43 of Title 33 of the OCGA relating to Medicare supplement insurance so as to provide
Insurance and labor.
Senate Bill 410 by Senators Kirkpatrick of the 32nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 3 of Chapter 50 of Title 43 of the OCGA relating to licensing of veterinarians.
Regulated industries.
Senate Bill 411 by Senator Williams of the 25th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 21 of the OCGA relating to primaries and elections generally so as to provide
Ethics.
Senate Bill 412 by Senators Kennedy of the 18th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 43 of the OCGA relating to professions and businesses so as to change
Regulated industries.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
First reading and references to House bills.
House Bill 434 by Representatives Hawkins of the 27th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 34 of Title 43 of the OCGA relating to the Georgia Composite Medical Board so as to provide for the licensing of
Regulated
radiologists.
industries.
House Bill 502 by Representative Silcox of the 53rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 9 of Chapter 34 of Title 43 of the OCGA.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 804 by Representative Seabach of the 34th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 7 of Chapter 2 of Title 40 of the OCGA relating to motor vehicle license fees.
Transportation.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
Secretary will read reports of standing committee.
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety has had under consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation that Senate Bill 363 do pass by substitute and Senate Bill 369 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Alberts of the 56th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Secretary will read bills and resolutions for the second time.
Senate Bill 85 by Senator Rhett of the 33rd and others. Speaker David Ralston Veterans Retirement Act enact. Senate Bill 105 by Senator Walker of the 20th and others. Public School Employees Retirement System, the minimum and maximum allowable benefit multiplier for current and future retirees revised. Senate Bill 143 by Senator Strickland of the 17th and others. Appellate court judges' eligibility for retirement benefits, decrease the age. Senate Bill 308 by Senator Harbin of the 16th and others. Georgia Legislative Retirement System, retirement benefit amounts payable to former legislators upon retirement and to currently retired legislators. Senate Bill 328 by Senator Albers of the 56th and others, Peace Officers Annuity and Benefit Fund Provisions revised. Senate Bill 332 by Senator Robertson of the 29th and others, Prosecuting Attorneys Qualifications Commission, promulgate standards of conduct and rules for the Commission's governance provide. Senate Bill 333 by Senator Dixon of the 45th and others, City of Mulberry Incorporate. Senate Bill 335 by Senator Albers of the 56th and others, Safeguarding Adopted Children from Sexual Violence Act enact. Senate Bill 370 by Senator Hodges of the 3rd and others, Human Trafficking Hotline Information, certain establishments to post human trafficking hotline information require. Senate Bill 373 by Senator Walker of the 20th and others, licensure in marriage and family therapy, issuance of expedited licenses by endorsement for marriage and family therapists provide. That completes the order, Mr. President.
It is now time for the morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Senators from the 33rd.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, y'all. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senators from the 38th, 34th, and the 5th.
The second.
Second. Thank you,
And the
sir.
seventh. The senator has asked that the senators from the 38th, 34th, 5th, 2nd, and 7th be excused. Without objection, they
Yes,
are
sir.
excused. Recognize senator from the 15th, the dean of the Senate. Where are you got him? All right. Are there any more motions to excuse? Chair hearing none. Secretary will call the roll. Senators, signify your presence by voting the yea switch. Secretary will unlock the machine. It is now time for our morning devotion. All senators, please take your seats and cease all conversation. I would ask the doorkeepers to secure the chamber at this time. I'd like to, I know we got a lot of activity going on today with a lot of special guests, but please give your attention. It's always nice to have the attention of the person giving the devotion. So I recognize our good senator, Public Safety Chair from the 56th to lead us in our pledge and introduce the chaplain of the day. Senator?
Thank you, Mr. President. Please join me in pledging allegiance to the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Georgia flag. I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag and to the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, moderation, and courage. Good morning. It's my honor to represent and introduce today Rabbi Silverman, who received his rabbinical degree from the Central Chabad Rabbinical School in Brooklyn, New York. In 1999, Rabbi Silverman and his wife Hani were sent by the Rebbe to direct and serve as the spiritual leaders of Chabad in Cobb County. Today, there are 4 Chabad centers in Cobb County serving the various Jewish communities. Rabbi Silverman is focused on promoting greater Jewish pride and observance in Cobb County, as well as being a father to 9 children and 2 grandchildren. Some of you may remember last June in 2023, when an unfortunate group of people stood in front of the Chabad of East Cobb synagogue waving Nazi swastika flags and other hateful symbols. These anti-Semitic messages were met with calm. And the goodness that came out of that ugly situation has been a groundswell of the community and the Chabad all working together for the greater good. I'm glad to see Rabbi Silverman here today, especially after the great work this body did last week. Rabbi Silverman.
Thank you, Senator Albers. Thank you, Governor, and thank you to all those here and all our senators. I want to thank Senator Albers and others for their special support after the neo-Nazi demonstrations outside the Chabad this past June. Our community's response was based on an ancient Jewish doctrine that the purpose of darkness, the purpose of evil, the purpose of darkness is for us to transform it into light. God creates everything, even the darkness. And our job is to look for opportunities to transform that darkness into light. As Senator Albers indicated, the neo-Nazis inspired a tremendous galvanization of the Jewish community locally, and many others, many churches that came to support us. And really, it was a tremendous opportunity to increase Jewish pride, Jewish strength. There's a concept of a mezuzah, a little scroll we put on our doors, and hundreds of families, because of those Nazis, put those symbols on their doors. And as I said to the press, if the neo-Nazis' intention was to help increase Jewish pride, they well surpassed their intentions. And in fact, to the point that many of my Chabad rabbi colleagues around the world asked me if there's a way to book this neo-Nazi group for their synagogues too. So we have opportunities. We have opportunities to transform darkness into light. And I think that this is what this body is about. This body is about looking at some of the challenges, sometimes the dark things in our society in Georgia, in the state of Georgia, and look for ways to transform that darkness into light. There's a beautiful Jewish tradition that every single week, Jewish people around the world, we have a book club in which we read the 5 books of Moses. And every community around the world, wherever they are, we read the same chapter, the same portion every single week. And this week it happens to be, or as we say, coincidence is an 11-letter name for God. It happens to be that this week we read about Jethro and the 10 Commandments, the giving of the 10 Commandments. And when God introduces himself at the beginning of the 10 Commandments, God says, I am the Lord your God who took you out of the land of Egypt. Now, if God is trying to put something on his resume, it might have been more impressive if God would have said, I am the Lord your God who created the whole world. That's a lot more impressive to have on your business card than took you out of the land of Egypt. Why did God choose to introduce himself in the 10 Commandments as, I am the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt? Because God was saying, I didn't just create the world and then let it be. I'm involved. I take you out of the land of Egypt. I'm involved in every detail of this world. Every single little detail, a leaf falling off a tree, is by divine providence. That's God's will. And so the fact that each of you here today has been chosen to be a senator, has been elected as a senator, is because God ultimately knows that you have the blessings, you have the capacities, the talents, the wisdom, the courage, really to lead our state, And this is something to ponder on, that God has given us and given each of us these abilities. I'd like to ask everyone to rise just for a moment as we pray. And we pray that may God Almighty give us the wisdom, the strength, the faith to fulfill our mission to bring light to this great state of Georgia, to protect the God-given liberty that is bestowed upon every human being who is made in God's image. We want to make sure that we continue to support all good people around the world, especially at this time. We thank the Senate for their staunch support for the people of Israel in their fight for their survival. And may we use the universal 7 laws of Noah to guide us in leading this great state. And may we usher in the era of the Messiah speedily in our days, and let us say, Amen.
Hey, y'all come on up. If I could have everyone's attention, It's always a pleasure to introduce and recognize our physicians who come down here and donate their time and services to this body. And I'd just like to recognize two fine physicians we have from Emory today, and I call on the senator from the 29th to introduce our docs of the day.
Thank you, Governor. I'm honored today to recognize Dr. Anna Cow and Dr. Ken Horlander from Emory of LaGrange. It's easy for me to say. These are two very accomplished physicians. We're very honored to have them here volunteering for us today. And if I were to stand here for another 30 minutes, I'm not sure that I could get through all the resumes and accomplishments that each of these individuals have accomplished. But probably the biggest accomplishment they have beyond healthcare is that they are husband and wife, and they work together in keeping our community safe and healthy. So please help me in welcoming two great doctors from Emory LaGrange. Thank you.
Thank you. It's our honor to be here, honorable senators, ladies and gentlemen. Only thing I kind of wanted to say was that in our field, especially after COVID, there can be a time of burnout and sometimes not feeling fully appreciated. And I wanted to be maybe the first today to thank you all for what you do. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Cow.
And I'm in the field of ophthalmology, so I think of as we're all visionaries. You know, thank you for being able to have the vision to continue to serve the public, as we are public servants as well. So thank you for letting us be here today, and then thank you for your hard work.
All right, good job, good job. Okay. If I could have everyone's attention, we have some special guests here today, and they're represented by, which is my old Senate district, represented by the senator from the 25th. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Resolution 453 by Senator Williams of the 25th and others. A resolution recognizing and commending Georgia Military College and congratulating the Preparatory Schools JROTC team on being the 2023 Raider National Champions mixed team, and for other purposes. Whereas the core values of the college are duty, honor, and love of country, and Georgia Military College builds on our military heritage to provide hope and opportunity through individual growth and education of its students to develop their intellect and character as authentic servant leaders in an environment focused on elevating civility and respect for others. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize and commend Georgia Military College and congratulate the Preparatory Schools JROTC team on being the 2023 Raider National Champions mixed team. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there objections to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. It is my pleasure to have, I think we've got the 8th grade history team for Georgia Military Prep School here today, as well as some members of the ROTC program and the junior college. I just want to tell you, General Caldwell at Georgia Military College does a fine job. I got him here on stage with us and his staff. They do an excellent job, not just in their preparatory school, but also in the junior college that they have there on campus. Do a lot of great work, and I am proud to have represented them in the Senate. They've got a lot better senator now than what they had before, and he's a native of Milledgeville, and I recognize the senator from the 25th to speak to all their accomplishments.
Thank you very much, Governor. If all of you would stand, please. We're so proud of our 8th grade history class from Georgia Military College. Let's give them a hand. Thank you very much. General Caldwell, I'll present this resolution to you on behalf of the State Senate, and then we'll turn it over to Emma Kate.
Hi everyone, I'm Emma Kate Godine. I'm a senior at Georgia Military College Prep School, and I'm standing here today with a few of my fellow cadets, and we're just really honored for the opportunity to stand before you, and we thank you for all of your support. And if you ever visit Milledgeville, please come by and see us at Georgia Military College. You can even do the Raiders obstacle course if you want. Yeah. Well, thank you for everything, and God bless you all.
Are there any unanimous consents? Chair hears none. Does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? I'm going to take, before I call on the first senator, I'm going to take this opportunity to recognize a fallen brethren this morning. Last night I had the colonel of State Patrol call me and let me know about a young man named Jimmy Sincere, who was killed in the line of duty last night. A trooper was in pursuit of a fleeing individual, lost control of his vehicle and crashed into the woods, killing him instantly. And this young man had just passed the academy in the last year and had been working for the State Trooper's Office for a very short period of time. If everybody could please stand and let's have a moment of silence for this young man, I would appreciate it. Amen. Our thoughts and prayers go out to his family. I know it's going to be a tough time for him, but thank you for allowing me to do that. I recognize the senator from the 9th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, members. I rise today to shed light on a resolution that's not just about recognizing outstanding individuals, but about defending the honor and integrity we expect from those who dedicate themselves to civic duty. I bring your attention to Ruby Freeman and Rondrea Shea Moss, who in a tumultuous 2020 elections performed their election duties with unwavering commitment. Despite their dedication, these civil servants found themselves falsely accused by prominent political figures, including Rudy Giuliani. Tragically, their honorable service was met with abusive threats, pushing them to fear for their lives. It's disheartening to witness how misleading information and lies perpetuated by some in position of power have real-world consequences for individuals like Freeman and Moss. As leaders, we must be cautious about the narratives we endorse, recognizing the potential harm caused by baseless accusation. Recent incidents of swatting and doxing within our own body should serve as stark reminders of the dangers posed when misinformation is allowed to thrive. We owe it to our civil servants and election workers like Freeman and Moss to protect them from attacks. I urge each member of this esteemed chamber to lead their support to this resolution that I have as an acknowledgement of Freeman and Moss's service and a broader commitment to safeguarding the well-being of all election workers who selfishly contribute their time to the democratic process. Let us ensure this resolution swiftly passes the rules. I hope it gets the rules, demonstrating our collective gratitude and solidarity with those who devote their time and service for our democracy. Y'all all don't line up at once. Mr. President, I yield the will.
Thank you, Senator. I recognize the senator from the 7th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, everyone. I have a special announcement to make. I don't know if many of y'all have noticed me running to the bathroom more frequently during voting, or the fact that I've been stuffing my face with Cheerios in the ante room, or that I look a little bit rounder. And it's because me and my husband are expecting a new addition to our family. I am pregnant and will be due in August, so I'm super excited. I already have 2 beautiful bonus daughters, and I'm really excited to expand our family, and I just wanted my other family to know. Thank you. I yield the will.
All right. Congratulations, congratulations. Senator from the 14th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no kids, and I am not expecting any kids. But on the same subject, I would like to announce the dedication of Reese's Family Room in the CLOB 323. The Secretary of the Senate, based on my juniority, assigned me a room that had a spare room in it, and that room is now decked out to the nines with accoutrement for babies and families. So we have a space at the Capitol finally, named in honor of Senator Jackson's new adopted 3-year-old son, and it will be a space that will welcome Senator Islam Parks as well. But I got to give it up to Miss Tina Correa, my assistant, for this lovely idea and for doing all the legwork to make this space a fantastic space for families of the Capitol. So please come by and see Reese's Family Room, Club 323. All are welcome. Thank you, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 28th for a point of personal privilege.
Good morning, Mr. President, colleagues. I rise today because today is Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Day here at the state capitol. And many of you know, but for those of you that don't, that MS is a neurological disease of the central nervous system affecting nearly 1 million people in the United States alone. And since 1946, the National MS Society has been a driving force of MS research, relentlessly pursuing prevention, treatment, and a cure, and has invested more than $1 billion in groundbreaking research. And we've got members from the MS Society that are with us today at the Capitol. My mother is one of those. Mom has lived with MS since 1998, or at least that's when it was diagnosed. And she's been an inspiration to me and to many in our community as she has really fought through that and dealt with that and overcome that. And she'll be the first to tell you that MS does not have her. She has it. Did I say that right? And I'm just proud of her. I'm proud of her as my mother, but also proud of her as just a great advocate for this debilitating disease. And so if you see members and advocates of MS here today with orange, please say hello and let them educate you a little bit on how it affects their lives and what we can do to equip them and give them the tools they need to live a better life. And so the state of Georgia is going to recognize the importance of finding the cause and cure of MS and expresses its appreciation for the dedication that the National MS Society Georgia chapter has shown towards creating a world free of MS. So for all our MS survivors out there and advocates that are here today, let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you, Mom. Love you. I yield the well.
Oh, me, that is sweet. And I love Miss Brass. I've known the Brasses for a long time. Not a finer group of folks. And his mom was top of the line, top of the shelf type person. So appreciate that, Senator. I recognize the senator from the 8th for a point of personal privilege.
Friends, it's with a heavy heart that I've come to the well this morning. I'm sure many of you have heard of the recent attack on American service members in Jordan by Iranian-backed militants. Reports of injured American soldiers continue to climb, with a total of 34 wounded and 3 confirmed fatalities. It breaks my heart to report to you, my colleagues, that one of those 3 Americans who paid the ultimate sacrifice was a Georgian. Not only was she a Georgian, but she was a South Georgian and a resident of my district, and her name was Kennedy LaDawn Sanders. This is Kennedy. Kennedy was a native of Waycross, and I'm honored to have my dear friends, Waycross Mayor Michael Angelo James, and Waycross City Commissioner Katrina Felder in the chamber with us today. Kennedy's family resides in Katrina's district. Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Felder, please know that the hearts of everyone in this chamber break for Kennedy's family and your entire community. Kennedy was a 2017 graduate of Ware County High School, where she was a gifted athlete and served as a captain of the Ware County girls basketball team. Kennedy loved basketball, gaming, crocheting, and sneakers of all types. She loved kids and had worked with her youth in her community by serving as the assistant coach for the middle school basketball team. She'd been described as fun-loving, always smiling, and a big kid at heart. Her family and friends often referred to her by her nickname, Munchkin. Born on July the 24th, 1999, Kennedy served in the Army Rangers with the rank of with the Army Reserves with the rank of sergeant, and eventually wanted to go full active duty in the service to her country and pursue a career in radiology technology. She was 24 years old when she gave her life for her country. When I first heard of Kennedy's death, the words my Vietnam veteran father once spoke to me came to mind with brilliant clarity. I was a young boy when he talked to me once of his days in Vietnam as a field medic attached to the 101st Division Airborne. He rarely spoke much in detail of his experiences, but that day he told me, he said, "Russ, when someone gives their life for their country, they not only give everything they have, but they also give everything they ever will have." Young Kennedy gave everything she had and everything she ever would have. Our state and nation owe her a debt we can never fully repay, but may we all honor her memory and sacrifice by being the kind of Americans worth fighting for. And sadly, in young Kennedy Sanders' case, the kind of Americans worth dying for. To Kennedy's dad, Sean, her mom, Oneida, and her siblings, our hearts break for you. Kennedy was a hero and a great American. Nothing we say here today can take away the pain and hurt the loss of Kennedy has caused your family. But on behalf of this chamber, the citizens of Georgia, and our nation, we pray that God wraps you in his love and provides you with the peace, mercy, and grace that can only come from him. Mr. President, I would now like to ask for a moment of silence in honor of Kennedy Sanders.
Senators request a moment's silence. Please, everyone could please rise and do accordingly.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Thank you, Senator. Recognize Senator from the 43rd for appointed personal privilege.
I'm back, and to echo the sentiments of the senator from the 8th, we have had a lot of deployments with our Guard and Reserve units out of Georgia, so please keep them in your prayers. I spent time with my Reserve Guard unit in Covington this past Saturday at noon and at 9 p.m. watching them pack up and leave, so please keep them in your prayers. But I am here on another note. We talked about babies and bonus babies, and bonus babies are stepchildren for those who don't know. And I'm a baby of my parents, and I'm still their favorite child because I push all of the grandchildren out of the way when I'm around. Yesterday was their 68th wedding anniversary, and I'm celebrating them still, and they get around, and my dad still drives as a Korean War era vet at 91, and they are doing well by the grace of God. So I'm celebrating my parents' 68th wedding anniversary, which was yesterday. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Recognize the senator from the 36th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. It's a busy day here at the Capitol on this Monday, the 29th of January, and a colleague has already placed on your desk an announcement that I'd like to just flag and underscore. The Georgia Commission on the Holocaust, in commemoration of the International Holocaust Remembrance Day, which was Saturday over the weekend. They are in the Capitol today from 1 to 3 to inform folks about the work of the Holocaust Commission. And I lift this up because I've been active with this commission dating back to when it was a one-person operation. It started at the very ground level and has built today to become an important part of the fabric of Georgia government. A few of us will remember World War II veteran State Representative John Yates. He landed a plane at the site of a concentration camp in Germany, and his life was marked by what he saw there, the gaunt survivors of a Nazi concentration camp. Representative Yates and I became dear friends over the years in the House because he made himself available at every possible time that there was an education session planned anywhere in the state for young people in school settings or elsewhere to educate about the horrors of the Holocaust and to lift up the cry, never again. So you will find on the first floor as we enter our elevators to come up to the chamber an exhibit that has been mounted commemorating International Holocaust Remembrance Day, another education piece. I commend it to all of us here and to our staff and aides here in the Capitol, and wanted to thank Senator from the 32nd for providing this on our desk today. There's more information here, but the Holocaust Commission has done incredible work and operates now as a part of our state apparatus here to continue to do this vital education on the Holocaust and the lessons learned, the historic lessons learned when an autocrat takes control, rises to power in a nation, and then begins to dismantle the democracy. It's a critical time for us to have our eyes wide open in this election year and to understand that one of the most heinous crimes of all centuries occurred when autocrats became dictators and demolished democracy in a nation in Europe. I hope to see you in room 230 today here in the Capitol between 1 and 3, and urge all of us to attend and bring others to salute the work of the Georgia Commission on the Holocaust and commemorate International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Thank you.
We have a special guest where we have a special resolution here today. It's always good to have the ladies of Delta Theta here with us. And Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Resolution 501 by Senators Butler of the 55th and others, a resolution commending Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated for its 111 years of service and recognizing January 29, 2024 as Delta Day at the state capitol and for other purposes. Whereas Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated is a sisterhood of college-educated women dedicated to academic excellence and committed to community service. And whereas members of this illustrious sisterhood serve as elected officials, lend support to various local communities, and lead dialogues on public policy throughout their communities. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body commend the efforts of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated for its 111 years of continued commitment to public service and its work in making the state of Georgia a better place in which to live, and recognize January 29, 2024 as Delta Day at the state capitol. That completes the order, Mr. President.
It is always good to have the ladies of Delta Sigma Theta here with us. They usually come every year. We usually have a big group in the gallery, but I think they're so popular today they're getting held up in the hallways, aren't they? So, but it's good to have these ladies here, and I like to call on the good senator from the 55th, the minority leader, to speak to the resolution. Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hearing none, the resolution is adopted. Almost missed that.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. It is my pleasure, my honor, as I have in the past, to bring to you this morning the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Inc. For 111 years of service in recognizing the Delta Days at the Capitol for January 29th, please give our Deltas a round of applause. And joining me, if the members of the Senate that signed the resolution would like to come up, I invite you to do so. Senators from the 40th, the 9th, 39th, and 36th is all I can see on here. Joining me this morning is Jalen Martin. She's the Southern Regional Representative. Alfreda Coward, she's the Southern Region Social Action Coordinator. Candace Delane, she's the State Social Action Coordinator. And Jacori Borders, she's the State Social Action Coordinator. And one more, Leslie Little, North Georgia State Coordinator. Delta Sigma Theta is a public service organization founded on January 13, 1913, by 22 visionary collegiate women at Howard University in Washington, D.C. Delta Sigma Theta, Inc. is a sisterhood of college-educated women dedicated to academic excellence and committed to community service, with more than 300,000 women that have joined the organization to implement the sorority's mission through its 5-point program thrust of educational development, economic development, political awareness and involvement, physical and mental health, and international awareness and involvement. The sorority has more than 1,000 collegiate and alumni chapters located in the United States as well as international, including Germany, England, Japan, the Virgin Isles, Bermuda, the Bahamas, and the Republic of Korea. Delta Days at the state capitol has instituted the Georgiana Sinkfield Servant Leadership Award, and Georgiana is the longest-serving female in the history of the General Assembly. They also instituted the Poto E. Costin Trailblazer Award. It was named for the first African-American female commissioner elected in Fayette County. And further, the Social Action Collegiate Change Agent Award, which is awarded to a student actively involved in student government association leadership or partner organization who demonstrates the ability to create change in either the campus or the community environment. We have a few members on the House side that are members of Delta Sigma Theta, Inc., and they are Rhonda Bernot, Terry Cummins, Viola Davis, Edna Jackson, and Sheila Jones. So this morning, they want to highlight their 2024 priorities, which are women's reproductive rights, voting engagement, and redistricting. And so I'd like to invite to the mic, is that Candace? Okay. Candace Delane, the State Social Action Coordinator. Please welcome Candace to the mic.
Good morning. Is it still morning? But good morning to the Assembly. Thank you for having us. As Senator Butler mentioned, we are focused on 3 initiatives, not only those, but today we are here for women's reproductive rights. Women should have the right to choose despite legislation passed throughout the United States, including Georgia. Women continue to use their voices to condemn the actions of those who have violated and continue to violate the rights for women to choose. We request that state legislators respect that right to choose and be held accountable if they refuse. We ask legislators to remove the sales tax from women's feminine products. For voting engagement, we strongly encourage chapters to work with strategic partners, adopt polling locations, serve as poll workers, managers, and legal observers. Partner with strategic partners, including other Georgia chapters of Delta Sigma Theta, to conduct targeted voter registration drives in lower voter turnout areas, facilitate voter education forums, and engage in voter mobilization efforts before elections in 2024. And lastly, redistricting. We are asking all legislators in impacted areas to send mailers, emails, et cetera, to all those affected by new maps ahead of the 2024 general primary to reduce voter confusion. We thank you for your time today. We thank you for the meetings that are going on as Delta Sigma Theta members schedule time to visit with each of you on both sides of the hall today. Thank you.
Good job.
Oh, and I'd like to recognize some members that have stepped into the galley upstairs. If you'll take a stand. We have over 250 members in the building today, so you should see one of us walking around.
Good job. Good job. One of the young ladies that went to the University of Alabama made sure to tell me roll tide too, by the way, so. Recognize the pro tem for a point of personal privilege.
Good morning, colleagues, and thank you, Mr. President. So this is a fun one. We get to recognize one of our own that does a lot of work for us. And I'm here today to recognize Senate Budget and Evaluation Director Brent Churchwell. Brent, are you in the house? You're supposed to be in here. There you are. for his 10 years of dedicated service to everybody in this chamber. Brent obtained a Master's of Science in Applied Psychology from the University of Georgia. He tells me privately it's that applied psychology part that really helps him do his job here at the Capitol. Then he went on to receive his Master's of Business Administration with emphasis in Operations Management and Marketing from Georgia Tech. He also received the honor of President Clinton's Reinventing Government Award for change management efforts and service at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, which we all know as FLETC. From the beginning work as Deputy Director in 2013, when he started with us 10 years ago, and in 2022, Brent has served our Senate members by producing solid financial analysis, wise budgetary decision-making, and top-notch supervision of the day-to-day duties of the Senate Budget Office. He works with our Senate Appropriations Chair, who could not say nicer things about him and all that he does. In closing, we have been very fortunate, y'all, to have had the dedicated service and leadership of Brent Churchwell, and we appreciate all that he does for this body. He's the guy that gets the increasingly beleaguered look up until the day we get the small budget done. He gets a little reset, and then it starts all over again until we get the big budget done. So, colleagues, please rise in recognition of Brent Churchwell's 10 years of dedicated service. We've got a nice little plaque for him, and with that, Mr. President, I yield the well.
All right. Recognition, well deserved. Brent does a good job, does a really good job. So recognize the senator from the 52nd for a point of personal privilege. Where is the senator from the 52nd? There he is. All right.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you may remember, I had a cardiologist here last week from my hospital, one of the 3 level 1 emergency heart hospitals. And if you saw in the AJC this weekend, now I'm a little prejudiced about Advent Redmond, my hospital, but if you saw in the AJC this weekend, we were named the #1 hospital in Georgia for critical care again, same as last year, made the top 5% of national hospitals. And I'll give kudos to Emory St. John's for being second, Emory St. Joseph for being third. But if you need critical care and you happen to be in Rome, Georgia, we're going to take good care of you. #1 again. Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? You have before you a consent calendar of privilege resolutions. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Recognize senator from the, no, you're holding off, all right. Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution on the consent calendar? Chair hears none. The resolution of the consent calendar are adopted. The Secretary read the resolution SR 502.
Senate Resolution 502 by Senator Orrick of the 36th and others, a resolution honoring the life and memory of Robert Bob Wilter Gibling Jr. and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. The resolution is adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw or commit? Recognize the senator from the 23rd for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate Bill 189 be withdrawn from the general calendar and recommitted to the Committee on Ethics.
Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 189, a bill by Senator Burns of the 23rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 21 of the OCGA relating to primaries and elections generally, so as to provide that the text portions of ballots produced by ballot marking devices shall be counted for vote tabulation and recounts purposes instead of any machine coding and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Ethics recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Burns of the 23rd District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 23rd move that SB 189 be withdrawn from committee and the general calendar, and recommitted to the Ethics Committee. Is there objection? Without objection, motion prevails. All right, heading on to the rules calendar now. So we have before you Senate Bill 342. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 342, a bill by Senator Robertson of the 29th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 5 of Title 49 of the OCGA relating to child abuse records, so as to authorize the disclosure or use of information from child abuse and neglect registries by the Department of Human Services to locate, recover, or provide services to a child determined to be missing or a victim of sexual exploitation and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Children and Family recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 29th to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, today I rise with a department bill from the Department of Human Services. What Senate Bill 342 does is it allows the Department of Human Services to open some of their records to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children to use some of the information in those records to help locate runaway foster children and children who are being exploited in the ways that we have been talking about for the last several years. One of the consequences of not doing this is it limits the amount of Title IV E as in Echo funding that we currently get and future funds that are available to assist us in doing this job. And these are just monies that belong to the Georgia taxpayers to begin with, and we're just trying to claw them back from the federal government and use them to help protect our children. There's an increasing rise in runaway foster children around the southeastern United States, and this legislation would go a long way in providing the necessary tools that we need to help solve those problems. So at that, I'll stand for any questions and yield the will if there are none.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Senate Bill 353. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 353, a bill by Senator Dolezal of the 27th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 32 of the OCGA relating to highways, bridges, and ferries, to amend weight and dimension requirements for modular unit transports, to amend Code Section 451623 of the OCGA relating to delegation of power by coroner or county medical examiner and qualifications of those authorized to perform examinations, so as to allow for delegation of duties when death results from an accident upon a highway in certain instances and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Transportation recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dolezal of the 27th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 27th, would you have a motion?
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent that we table Senate Bill 353.
The author of the bill is asked to table the bill. Is there objection to that motion? Without objection, motion is granted. It will be tabled. Moving on to Senate Bill 337. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 337, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 382111 of the OCGA relating to personal aides de camp, appointments, commissions, length of service, and duties so as to authorize the governor to appoint honorary Georgia colonels for life and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Government Oversight recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Harbin of the 16th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 32nd to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 337 clarifies language about an existing program in our code to honor people with distinguished service to Georgia. The governor currently has authority to appoint aides de camp with varying ranks. The current program is not widely known or used. This bill changes the terminology to Georgia colonel without reference to military service. The terminology is similar to the famous Kentucky colonel designation, and I know there are a few people in the chamber who hold that honor. The criteria for appointment would be distinguished service to Georgia and would be for the lifetime of the designee rather than ending with the term of the governor. This bill does not change the governor's authority to confer this appointment, and it does not require the governor to appoint anyone. There is no financial benefit to the appointment and no financial impact to the state. I would ask for your favorable consideration. Happy to answer questions.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you. I yield the will.
Does any senator wish to rise and speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Secretary, read the caption, Senate Bill 354.
Senate Bill 354, a bill by Senator Walker of the 20th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 10 of Title 43 of the OCGA relating to cosmetologists and barbers so as to exempt from licensure persons performing certain limited responsibilities and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Cowser of the 46th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
I recognize the senator, the pride and joy of Perry, Georgia. You can't go down there without driving on a Walker Road down there. Senator from the 20th.
Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I bring before you Senate Bill 354. It is a result of one of the recommendations out of our Senate Study Committee, which was formed by Senate Resolution 85 last year. Georgia has some pretty onerous licensing requirements. Golly. That are really a burden, more heavily borne really by the working class in Georgia and oftentimes lower income Georgians. There was a recent Georgia Supreme Court case, I believe it was last year, Jackson versus Raffensperger, where the Georgia Supreme Court made it clear that the government, meaning the state of Georgia, bears the burden of providing a legitimate interest or reason for licensing. In other words, for the government to put up that barrier for the citizens of Georgia and impede their freedom to work, there has to be a public safety or a public welfare, a compelling public safety or welfare interest. So it's through those lens that we looked at all of the licensing that Georgia has, which, by the way, there's 42 different licenses just under the Professional Standards Licensing Board under the Secretary of State's office. That doesn't include the licenses issued by other agencies in the state. So we have a lot of licensing. So we took the opportunity to look at through the lens of what the Georgia Supreme Court said to review, repeal, and or pare back some of the license requirements. And one of the ones that looked like, to me, low-hanging fruit and kind of jumped off the page was our extremely burdensome cosmetology licensing requirements in the state of Georgia. They tell me the average cost to go to cosmetology school is over $17,000. To get the full cosmetology license, you have to have 1,500 hours of experience. Now that is 10 times what it takes to get a license to be an EMT. 1,500 for a cosmetology license, 150 for an EMT license. So we looked at, and there is some legitimate safety concerns for licensing cosmetologists, but we looked at some of the kind of niche areas in the cosmetology field that might be some opportunity to pare back or repeal the license requirement, and we identified these shampooing and blow dry styling operations, and those have become popular, particularly in the metro Atlanta area, very popular with wedding parties, I'm told, et There's a company that exclusively does this. I believe their trade name is Dry Bar, but the blow dry salons that we've seen come to being, and then the other part is the makeup artist. And we already have a couple of exclusions for makeup artists If you're doing makeup in a retail environment, say a Dillard's or a Macy's, you're not required to have a license. And of course, to me, that's where you might be at most risk for unsanitary conditions, because you have so many people coming through those stores. But there you don't have to have a license. Or if you're working on a film set, you are not required to have a license to be a makeup artist. But if you are a Georgian that wants to start an entrepreneur, start a business, a single mom trying to help lift her family out of poverty, we require 1,100 hours of experience in a $17,000, $18,000 cosmetology class. So those two areas to me just didn't make a lot of sense. On the shampooing, a salon owner that's licensed can hire people to do strictly shampooing, and those folks don't have to have a license. But if you want to own your own business and be a dry bar type place, you've got to jump through all those hoops. So all this bill does is simply, it's very narrowly tailored. It's not talking about people that cut hair or color hair, any of that. It's just strictly, you'll see on line 32 through 38, the definition of blow dry styling. And then, let's see, and it's referred to several times in the bill. And then we have a definition of applying cosmetics also in the bill, but it's strictly those two narrow areas that you would not be required to have a cosmetology license to do those things. So with that, Mr. President, I'll be happy to try to answer any questions. If there are none, which maybe there wouldn't be, I would be glad to yield the well.
Oh, no, you got a few questions, Senator. Recognize Senator from the 48th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, do you yield?
Yes, sir.
Senators, you may recall in this chamber we had a similar bill last year regarding blowers, and I was wondering if you could describe to us the difference between electric and gas-powered hair dryers and how that's going to affect this, the outcome of this vote.
Thank you. That's a really good question. I appreciate it. I am wearing my yellow sticker. There are similarities between the two measures, in my opinion, and basically both of those, your measure last year regarding leaf blowers that are used in the yard, and my measure this year that are regarding hair dry blowers that are used on your hair. Both of these are to protect people's liberty and to get government out of the way so that people can be free to work, in my case.
Senator from the 29th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield?
Yes, sir.
Senator, is it not true that the average cost of these blowouts in metropolitan areas are somewhere between $95 and $200?
Wow, I did not know that. So I'm sure the senator knows of what he speaks. Evidently, you would know, but thank you. You are styling and profiling.
I am, and that means a lot coming from my wig-wearing friend. But, Senator, is it not true at that kind of economic impact that these individuals you spoke of, single moms and other individuals trying to pull themselves out of poverty, that by having them go through all of these unnecessary requirements, your legislation removes those obstacles out of the way, gets these individuals into the workforce, something that not only helps the beauty industry, but the wedding industry, the photography industry, and all these other industries that cover the peripheral of weddings and graduations and other things.
Yes, sir, Senator. I think you're absolutely right, and we are having fun with this and at my expense, and that's fine. But this really is about allowing people the freedom to work and provide an opportunity for oftentimes people that have come from a tough economic circumstance, and promoting entrepreneurship and a path to success. We heard testimony in the committee from a couple of young African-American ladies that were supporting the bill, and they talked about the struggle it was for them to pay off that student debt and to get into the cosmetology field, and how this would really help them. And I think a lot of the people that go down, that get into cosmetology through this pathway, if the bill passes, would probably ultimately want to have the full cosmetology license and have a full service salon possibly. So, but this is a way a small way to allow them to get started. Mr. President, I don't think there's much more to be said from me about this, and with that, I will yield the well. Thank you.
Senator has yielded the well. You're always welcome to come up front and express your opinion. Recognize the senator from the 39th to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to begin by acknowledging my role on the study committee that recommended these licensure changes, working under the guidance of our respected chairman, the senator from the 20th, and alongside the senator from the 56th and the Expanding Georgia's Workforce Study Committee. I've gained a solid appreciation for both the complexities and the challenges we face in clearing barriers of entry into certain professions. And these committees' collective efforts have identified many areas for meaningful improvements that I look forward to seeing this body take up. Mr. President, you yourself have spoken of your red tape rollback, which is not only a good piece of marketing, but is really a recognition that creating avenues to help individuals be productive, get to work, and be successful are valuable endeavors. So it is with a sense of responsibility and understanding of our shared goals that I must express my significant reservations about the exemption of practices such as shampooing, blow-dry styling, and makeup application from licensure requirements. The beauty industry is more than just about looking good. Talk to any professional in the industry and they'll tell you that it's first about safety and trust. Eliminating licensing requirements for certain services performed by beauty professionals risks undermining these fundamental principles. Think of it like this. Just as you wouldn't want an untrained person handling your medical care, wouldn't you want someone with proper training and licensing taking care of your skin, hair, or nails? As a matter of fact, outside of medical professionals, chiropractors and massage therapists, this is the only other industry where the practitioner's job requires them to touch your body. So why wouldn't we hold them to a higher standard? Take makeup artists. It's not just about applying cosmetics. They need to have a solid understanding of skin health, know how to keep their tools clean and safe, and be aware of how to handle skin problems. When it comes to shampooing and blow drying, these might seem like ordinary, simple tasks, but they actually require a lot of know-how. Their work goes beyond creating a great hairstyle. Professionals need to understand everything from how to properly clean their tools to prevent infections to the right way to untangle your hair without causing damage. They also need to know about scalp health and be mindful of conditions like psoriasis and dermatitis that could worsen with the products they use or spread on to the next customer. These skills and knowledge are vital for ensuring that a salon visit is not just enjoyable, but safe. Plus, we already allow people to work in salons shampooing hair with no licenses, but they are trained and supervised by salon owners to protect themselves. For those specializing in styling with a hair blower, flat iron, or curling iron, knowing how to use hot tools is extremely important. Hair and skin can be burned along with creating real damage from heating up certain products from blow drying or curl drying. Too much heat causes abrasions on the skin and scalp. So central to the industry's integrity is the principle of sanitation. Extensive research, including studies by the National Institutes of Health, has highlighted the necessity of stringent hygiene practices in salons and barbershops. The nature of beauty services inherently involves close personal contact, which unfortunately provides an ideal avenue for infections to spread. Add this to the fact that common salon and makeup tools, the combs, the brushes, clippers, scissors, flat irons, curling irons, can become breeding grounds for pathogenic bacteria and fungi if not properly sanitized. I know that I will be accused of being for the establishment and squelching entrepreneurship, but that could be further from the truth. I would like to see us instead take a slower approach to reform. And I assure you, as someone who regularly uses all of these services, I am thinking about consumer protection. My conviction in upholding licensing requirements has been reinforced through conversations I've had with over 30 industry professionals in my district, specifically hairdressers and barbers, who predominantly serve an African American customer base. Their feedback was strikingly clear. Every single one of them stressed how vital sanitation training is. And this unanimous view really brings to light the need for a more balanced approach in this industry, one that values hands-on training while also emphasizing the importance of education and sanitation, something that is a core part of the licensing process. One other thing I'd like to ask you to consider is that this bill very smartly recognizes that services that require the use of reactive chemicals, for example, dye, hair color, perms, keratin treatments, they will continue to need to be performed by a licensed professional. However, the bill ignores the fact that makeup, sunscreen, shampoo, conditioner, hairsprays, balms, and more are also chemicals produced using a mixture of chemicals that can have adverse reactions when applied to the skin, scalp, or hair. So while I fully support the intentions of Senate Bill 354 to streamline certain services in the industry, as written, it overlooks the critical role of licensing in ensuring safety and professionalism. A license is more than just a piece of paper. It's a guarantee that the person holding it has been properly trained, not just in keeping things clean, but also in staying up to date with the best practices for hygiene and sterilization. This is crucial for keeping everyone safe, both the clients and the professionals alike. I have been working on a bill, and I do have a bill that would seek a compromise that I've worked on with a member of the cosmetology board that suggests that a reduction in educational hours for these same services without compromising on the essential standards of sanitation and client safety would help us move people more quickly into the industry, into business, without sacrificing the safety of the clients that they will be seeing, the heads, the bodies that they will be touching. Therefore, I urge each of you to reconsider the bill. Let's uphold the industry's high standards and safeguard public health by voting against the current proposal and supporting a more balanced approach. Our commitment to safety, trust, and professional integrity and development must guide us in this decision. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well unless there are any questions.
You do have a couple of questions.
I just do.
You never know what bill is going to bring debate to the floor. Recognize Senator from the 55th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would Senator yield?
Yes, I will.
Maybe you can clear up something about the 1,500 hours that are not, they are not hours on a clock, but they're hours spent actually working in a salon, the 1,500 hours. I think the senator in the committee that presented the bill confused those two things.
So right now, the path to licensure, would include either educational credit hours or apprenticeship hours where you're working with somebody. So you could do it either one. So experience, working under somebody who's a licensed instructor, who's licensed to instruct and oversee you, or the education credit hours is the pathway. And it is a lot. I mean, I admit 1,500 is a lot of hours. If we are going to just focus on shampoo, hair styling, which includes blow drying, flat irons, curling irons, and makeup, I mean, I do think that those should be reduced. I mean, I would suggest to you, and in the draft bill I have, it would reduce makeup artists to having 300 credit hours, and it would reduce shampoo and blow dry to 500 credit hours on education, so that they can in fact get the knowledge that they need on the sanitation, the hygiene, the sterilization. Barbicide, which barbers, anybody who goes to the barbershop and the hairdresser knows, barbicide actually can kill the AIDS virus. Like, there are strong chemicals, there are a lot of things that happen when dealing with somebody's personal anatomy that our hairdressers need to know what to do about.
So in other words, they can either attend school or do an
Yes.
apprenticeship in a shop.
Correct.
Would Senator further yield?
Yes, I will.
Wouldn't this be beneficial to those rural areas that may not have a school, but plenty beauty shops?
Yes, I mean, there's plenty of people who are already working in shops and doing apprenticeships if there is not a school in their area. So it's not so much that people can't do the work already. And the cosmetology board today is not going after people who are like, I used to get my hair done when I was in college in my dorm because Carla did hair. They're not going after people like that. And they're not already going after people who are doing makeup for weddings. They are specifically trying to make sure that the people who have a shop and say that they are running a business actually have the protocols in place that they need to be successful on down the line. Without the knowledge, these are not going to be people who are successful throughout the length of the career because they don't have the basic knowledge that they're going to need in order to keep the health and safety of their clients foremost.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Recognize the senator from the 28th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, do you yield?
I do.
Senator, you had mentioned shampoos and conditioners and makeup have chemicals in them. Do you use those products at home?
I do, but I'm not hanging out my shingle saying that I can use it on you.
Correct. Do you think you need 1,500 hours to use those products, though? Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is that I do think that there needs to be a reduction in the hours as opposed to an elimination completely of the licensing requirement. So all of us have the certainty that if you are touching me, you do know what you're doing because you've been properly trained.
And what would be the appropriate amount of hours to shampoo someone's hair, condition someone's hair, and blow dry someone's hair?
So the proposal that I would make is that 500 hours would be it. So that's a third of the number of current hours you'd have to do to be, able to fully do everything. I'd like to also point out the 1,500 hours also would allow you to use chemicals like dye, color, perms, relaxers, all that kind of stuff. If you're not gonna do people's hair and use those products, I agree that you should do less hours, but you still have to get the sanitation. You have to know it. Now, I've not been to cosmetology school, but 500 hours seems like a much more reasonable approach than just saying, don't have a license at all, make the entire industry unregulated for these areas.
Well, Senator, if I remember correctly from committee, the bill actually did carve out you still have to have the 1,500 hours for the chemicals in the hair,
It
the hair
does.
dye and all that stuff.
Yes, it
and
does.
and to cut hair, you still have to have the 1,500 hours, which
You would.
I think is a little too high myself.
Right.
But is it not true that even $500 hours for me to stand there with a blow dryer seems pretty hefty, does it not?
What I would say is that if you want somebody to be a professional and know what they're doing, it might actually require that amount of time. I think it's easy when none of us are actually, myself included, I'm not in the profession, but I would tell you that my hairdresser would be offended at the notion that all she's doing is standing there and like blow drying my hair, because it is a profession. And there are standards of care that have to be met. And that, I think, is what I heard overwhelmingly when I talked beyond just my hairdresser, beyond just the other women and men that I've spoken to other professionals who also unanimously said the sanitation training is urgent and critical. And how do you know somebody has that if nobody has to have a license anymore to do hair? I go to the
That's not what this bill does, Senator.
But
Is it
I
not true?
I go to the hairdresser every week, maybe two now that we're in session. But I go to the hairdresser every week. She shampoos my hair. That would be allowed and not require a license in this bill. She blow dries my hair. That would be allowed without a license in this bill. She flat irons my hair and curls it. That would be allowed without a license in this bill. That's basically the gamut. And so if we're gonna say unregulate the industry, yeah, it opens up the floodgates, but what you have is a bunch of people who are saying that they are able to do the work but haven't necessarily been trained. And how do you or I know who knows what they're doing versus who doesn't? I think we, to some extent, diminish the profession itself.
Recognize Senator from the 32nd.
Thank you. Senator, do you yield?
I do.
You lost me when you were talking about makeup, and I wondered if you could look at line 60, because it looks to me like that's already covered in the law. The application of cosmetics, I don't think we're changing that. Is that correct?
We're making makeup artistry no longer require a license, as I understand it. I'll find it. And the senator who introduced the bill also mentioned makeup. It's line 49, applying cosmetics. Such person shall not be required to be registered by the board. Moreover, 150. Moreover, a facility in which an individual performs or individuals perform only shampooing, blow dry, styling, or applying cosmetics and no other practices requiring a license is exempt from all facility licensing requirements.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Recognize Senator from the 29th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the senator yield?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, Senator. You referred to shingles a while ago, hanging out a shingle.
Yeah.
In any municipality in Georgia, are they required before they can hang out a shingle to get a business license?
Yeah.
And, excuse me, if to get a business license, have the health department do an inspection, make sure they have so many sinks, all these other things. Are these requirements currently?
Yes, I'm very glad that you brought this up, because the reality is, I'll take, again, my hairdresser as an example. She does have to have a license from the city in order to operate her salon. And guess what the city requires of her?
I don't know.
A business license to show that she actually has the license to do the work. So the city requires the business license, as well as the salon suite's owner that she operates in. They also require the license because they also want to have risk protection.
Now, does the senator further yield?
I do.
The individual you're talking about, do they do dye and chemicals?
They do, yes, but she also does, like on Saturday I was there. She did no dye. She did just shampoo, blow dry, flat iron, curl.
But she has the option to do dye if a customer asks.
She does.
As opposed to a blowout dry bar where somebody would come in and receive limited services. Is that correct?
That's probably true. I almost want to acknowledge in this conversation, though, some cultural differences that are happening. Like, there are blow-dry bars, but blow-dry bars predominantly are not where African-American women are going to go to get their hair done. And not because we don't get our hair blown dry. Many of them actually require your hair is already shampooed, and you come in and they are just blowing it dry, and they may even just style it with a brush, which is not the way you would be able to do my hair with a blow dryer or with a flat iron.
And I agree with the senator. You nor I would most likely use one of these facilities.
Yes.
But I agree with you that sanitation is important. Can you tell me how many hours a dishwasher in a restaurant or a server in a restaurant must have before they become licensed to handle food and go out and serve it to customers?
Actually, I should know this answer. I do not. Cannot answer that question.
Thank you,
for
ma'am.
I'm gonna go back to answer to that question, though. The dishwasher example, I don't know the answer. I agree that there's sanitation issues every day in a restaurant, but they are not touching your body. They are not touching your body. The practitioner themselves, the professional themselves, are not touching your body. Can I yield now, or are there more questions?
You're almost done, Senator, but you're free to yield the well at any time.
I'll take one more. Pick a good one.
Recognize the senator from the 42nd.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator. Will the senator yield?
I will.
I wanted to go back a minute on hair extensions.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that under this change in the law, there would be no training required for hair extensions. Am I correct about that?
I believe that might be right. The thing is, right now today, if I wanted to go and get my hair braided, if I wanted to go and get my hair locked, we've already made an exception for those services anyway, and we've allowed them to perform the services, but they are not allowed to shampoo. So I would, if I wanted to get my hair braided today, I would come in there with my hair, most of the people I know, with my hair already shampooed, maybe not, but with my hair already shampooed, and then they would just do the braid.
So in terms of hair extensions applied with glue.
Oh, yeah.
This is something that I have had done. Am I correct that this legislation would now provide that the application and removal of hair extensions with glue would now no longer require training?
Yes, that is correct. Glue.
So isn't it
hair use and styling of hair extensions, hair pieces, which is done with glue.
Is it not true, Senator, that having been someone who's had some those applied and more critically removed, that it would be a concern to me that if removed improperly, you could rip out large sections of someone's hair, if not damage their scalp and open up a wound?
That is correct. And I'm glad you mentioned the word glue, because if we talk about makeup artists, you are going to, if you go to get your makeup done, 9 times out of 10, you are also getting lashes. We see everybody with everybody where you go around, you see people with lashes that are not their own. Lashes are applied with glue. You can do a lot of damage to somebody's eyes if you don't know what you're doing when you are applying lashes to somebody's eyes with glue. And so while you might have a licensed professional who also accidentally makes errors, if you're just saying these tasks are so menial that they don't need a license at all, you are opening yourself up to much more damage from to the individual. To me, this is about consumer protection.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. yield.
Recognize the senator from the 31st.
Oh my gosh.
And then you have one question after this one.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to be hopefully quick. Does the distinguished senator from Atlanta yield?
I do.
So we go from 1,500 to 1,000 to 500 or 200 or wherever these numbers are getting pulled out of the sky. To bring this kind of question for you, bring this all full circle, is it not true that the purpose of this legislation is to help individuals who want to live, hopefully, their lives, their dreams, make money to support their families? And if I'm a single mom, is it not true that I don't have 200 hours or 500 hours to go spend doing all this stuff?
Fair enough. And I would also at the same time argue that you cannot be licensed. The difference is, again, hanging out the shingle. Sonia Halpern goes out tomorrow and says, I am now a hairstylist, I've got a business, I'm in a facility, even if it's my own salon. That's very different than me saying, I do hair. I can do hair, I'm coming to your home, or you can come to my home. I'm actually not suggesting that there won't be lots of people who continue to be unlicensed who do this practice. I'm just saying if you have a shop, a physical location, if you are in a facility, you should be licensed because that gives me as the consumer the trigger that you know what you're doing.
Thank you.
Last question. Recognize the senator from the 2nd.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, do you yield?
I do.
Senator, there was a question about dishwashers and having hours of requirements, but I want to ask you this question. Senator, are you aware that the Georgia Code that supervises restaurants does require that for any facility that operates and is a restaurant, that at least one member of the staff must have a nationally accredited food handling and safety certification? So, i.e. a member of management on that committee would have a Serve Safe certification,
Yes.
and that person would be responsible for supervising the dishwasher. Is that not true?
Yes, the senator knows of which he speaks. Thank you. I yield the well.
The senator has yielded. Recognize the senator from the 27th. Speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President, colleagues. In 2007, my wife and I got married, and it was one of the privileges to our nuptials. I was able to fund her startup of a hair salon. With a couple of friends, we owned that hair salon for about 10 years, and I was in and out of that salon over the course of those 10 years and learned more, honestly, than I wanted to about that industry and that business. And what I would tell you is I wholly and fully support this piece of legislation, because what I learned through that process, and what I also learned in the process of last fall, my wife renewing her license and going through the continuing education process, is that the licensing process needs complete overhaul. There's other words I would like to put around that, but I'm not going to do that from this well today. I'm just going to tell you that it does not service the consumers the way that the previous speaker stated. What it services and who it services is the owners of both the continuing education facilities and the large hair institutions who have aspiring cosmetologists in their midst for about a year that they're able to charge anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000. These are largely people without college degrees. These are largely people who don't have the resources to pay for this, and the large pushback that you're seeing on this type of reform is with those people who have a vested interest not only in obtaining that original $15,000 to $20,000, but obtaining the money from them that they get through the continuing education process, which I will say, the word that I wanted to put on it is a joke. The continuing education process in this industry is a complete and utter joke. You go online, you pay to watch a video, maybe you don't watch the video, you maybe answer a couple questions online, maybe you don't. You check the box for your continuing education, and you paid a couple $100s to get that done, and you have learned essentially nothing. The previous speaker spoke about cultural differences. I'm on the committee in which this bill came, and I found it very interesting that the person who spoke against it is from the regulating industry, and the two people that spoke in favor of this bill were two African-American women. I don't know if they knew each other or not. They did not work at the same place, but they spoke in favor of this bill because they recognize that shampooing and blow drying hair is not something that requires a license. It certainly does not require either an 1,100 or 1,500 hour license. The other thing that happens in this process, and the previous speaker may not know this, but if you walk into a hair salon today, your hair can be washed by someone who is unlicensed because they're serving out their apprenticeship in the process of getting their license. They're working perhaps under the auspices of a business and somebody who is licensed. But today we have people washing hair, blow drying hair, using flat irons in salons in the state of Georgia who are not licensed, and no one is dying. We heard loss of limbs in committee, and really just kind of some crazy doom and gloom things. I asked the question of the person who testified, can't you teach me sanitation in about 2 days? She said, well, yeah, I could, but I got to do this, 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 and this. The sanitation thing is way overblown. And the majority whip mentioned the concept of restaurants, and the previous speaker talked about things being hot, hair, flat irons are hot. You know what else is hot? Is a fryer in a McDonald's. And we allow 16, 17-year-olds to walk in and earn a living without having to license them. And so I would encourage you to vote for this bill. I have some tangential knowledge. I would encourage the author, don't stop here. Keep going. This entire licensing scheme needs to be dismantled from top to bottom. We need to allow people to get to work in the state, and we need to allow them to get to work in the state doing these jobs that don't cost them what's going to equate to a third or half of their first year's salary. And with that, Mr. President, I yield the well. Thank you.
Senators yielded. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against this measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Senator from the 20th, I'll let you close debate.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I appreciate the debate on this and the concern from my friend from the 39th. I know she's sincere in her concerns. What I think is going on here, because a lot of the people that she talked to that raised concerns about this are in the industry. They put in their time. They want the next person to have to put in their time, or they're benefiting from interns that are having to fulfill the 1,500-hour work requirement, and they're paying them little or nothing, and they're getting free labor off of these people, or they're, part of a school that gets the $17,000 on average to train these people. I mean, there's an entrenched profit-making ecosystem surrounding cosmetology. I don't know that I would find anybody in here that thinks 1,500 hours of training is reasonable. But they're getting free labor for 1,500 hours. These schools are charging out people to come in and get a haircut from somebody that's not licensed. You can go to one of these schools and get your hair cut from somebody that's not licensed. I'm not hearing of any deaths or major problems from that. It's an entrenched bureaucracy, and I'm trying to take up for the little man, to be honest with you. And I thought we'd have unanimous support for this. This is for working class Georgians. This is not, a huge shift in public policy. This is just nibbling at the freaking edges, really, y'all. 5 states have fully exempted blow-dry styling from licensure. 13 states fully exempt makeup artists from licensure, including Florida and Mississippi, southern states. And there is no evidence that these services are any less safe in states that exempt them. You aren't seeing this on the news at night. Somebody lost their ear or. And by the way, I don't use a flat iron, but I think you can buy a flat iron and use it at home. I think your neighbor could come over if you're friends, and you could flat iron their hair. You could blow dry their hair. Y'all could style each other's hair. You can, all this stuff is you can do yourself. To the appropriations chairman's point, you're trying to muddy the water with the hair weaving, which I know nothing about, honestly. But I mean, hair weaving is already allowed. It says, line 53, this term, cosmetology, shall not mean an individual who only braids the hair by hair weaving, interlocking, twisting, plaiting, wrapping by hand, chemicals or mechanical devices, or using any natural or synthetic fiber for extensions, which was also brought up. You don't have to have a license to do that already. So let's don't make this more than it is. Having a license does not make these salon. I mean, we heard testimony from the chairman of the licensing board, all these horror stories, loss of an eye, loss of a toe. I mean, it was horrible. Makes me not ever want to go to a barbershop anymore. I'm scared to death. All this under our current license system that's supposed to be keeping us safe. Well, clearly it's not working. I think if I go into a barbershop, a Sports Clip, a Great Clips, my local barber, up to Mr. Tommy's, up the road, up north side, on north side, and it's nasty in there, I'm not going to let them do anything to my hair. I'm going to go somewhere else. If I go somewhere and they burn my scalp, I'm not going back. I mean, let's talk about some personal accountability, some common sense. My God, I would appreciate a yes vote, but if you want to vote no against the little man and the working Georgians, feel free. Thank you very much.
I hope, Senator from the 20th, I hope your preacher wasn't watching today, dropping that kind of language. And I noticed the senators from the 14th and 21st were pretty quiet during that debate. So, all right, the previous question has been ordered. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea, opposed nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. Senator from the 9th, state your inquiry.
Mr. President, isn't it true that the members in this body that are for this bill have referenced black women many times, yet still refuse to pass the Crown Act that is for black women?
Senator is passionate about what she speaks. Senator from the 43rd. Senator from the 43rd.
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that the Crown Act is in committee awaiting the senator to release it?
The senator knows what she speaks. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 38, the nays are 15. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Moving on to House Bill 455. Secretary, read the caption.
House Bill 455, a bill by Representative LaHood of the 175th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 43 of the OCGA relating to general provisions relative to professions and businesses, so as to provide that professional programs that are established to address career fatigue and wellness in healthcare professionals are not obligated to report to licensing boards except in certain circumstances, to provide for definitions, to provide for immunity, and for the purposes. The Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Kauser of the 46th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 56th to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 455 is a bill that's going to provide confidentiality, protections, and really create an environment where our healthcare workers in their time of need could go get help without any further concerns of that impacting their job. As we have seen over the last many years, especially through the pandemic, over half of our healthcare professionals experience some type of severe burnout. And this gives them the proper protection so they can go get help and they can ultimately be healthy enough to support each one of us. This bill is very straightforward. The proper protections are put in place if they are a danger to themselves and others. But in general, this is a great piece of legislation to help all of us because they are the healers and they are the caregivers. If there are no questions, I'll yield the will.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Moving on to House Bill 130. Secretary, read the caption.
House Bill 130, a bill by Representative Gable of the 15th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 3 of Article 7 of Chapter 3 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to Georgia Student Finance Authority, so as to provide for student loan repayment for peace officers, to provide for definitions, to provide for eligibility requirements, to provide for continued eligibility requirements, to provide for student loan repayment agreements and conditions, and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Higher Education recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Hickman of the 4th District Chairman. The Senate Committee on Higher Education offers the following substitute to House Bill 130. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 3 of Article 7 of Chapter 3 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to Georgia Student Finance Authority, so as to provide for a student loan repayment for peace officers and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 50th to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to bring you House Bill 130, which is the Georgia Peace Officers Service Loan Repayment Program. This is a part of Governor Kemp's administrative initiative last year. The purpose of this bill is to recruit and retain public law enforcement officers across the state of Georgia. It builds upon what the governor did last year, adding criminal justice degrees to the high demand career initiative to be eligible for the HOPE Career Grant. Law enforcement officers are critical to protecting the citizens of this state, but are often faced with a decision between heeding the call of public service or seeking other opportunities to pay down student loans. To ensure we're retaining top talent, we are looking to implement an investment of $3.2 million in a loan repayment plan for state and local law enforcement. This plan funds up to 800 officers and will provide a loan repayment of up to $20,000 per officer in exchange for 5 years of service. The substitute allows our existing officers to also participate in this program if they enroll and complete a criminal justice degree. This bill is another step we as a body can take to continue our commitment to law enforcement officers. And Mr. President, I'm happy to yield to any questions.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52 and the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Recognize the senator from the 27th for a motion.
I ask for unanimous consent that Senate Bill 353 be removed from the table.
The senator has moved that Senate Bill 353 be removed from the table. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 353 by Senator Dolezal of the 27th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 32 of the OCGA relating to highways, bridges, and ferries, to amend weight and dimension requirements for modular unit transporters, to amend Code Section 451623 of the OCGA relating to delegation of power by coroner or county medical examiner and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Transportation recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dolezal of the 27th District Chairman. Senator Dolezal of the 27th and others offer the following Amendment 1 to Senate Bill 353 by replacing line 54 with otherwise authorized by this article to competitively solicit, and striking 10-year and replacing with 100-year on line 64. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection to the motion? Chair hearing none, I recognize the senator from the 27th to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I bring you Senate Bill 353. This is a GDOT department bill. If it looks familiar, it's about 95% of the same language as we passed last year, went to the governor's desk, and due to a change actually that we made here in the Senate, was vetoed. We've removed the vetoed language, worked through that a little bit, and bring this back to you this year in a form that we think all parties will agree to. I'll very quickly walk you through each section of this and answer any questions. Section 1, at the request of Legislative Counsel, on lines 30 and 33, makes email as opposed to physical mail an allowed way for legislators to be called on for a board election. Section 2, in 2011, the General Assembly updated GDOT's P3 code section, lines 47 and 48, are technical corrections to reflect the intent of the language change. It replaces, quote, requests for proposals with, quote, requests for proposal revisions as one of the authorized negotiation activities. In the negotiation phase, a request for proposals has already been issued and therefore would not need to be part of the negotiation. Section 3, in 2021, the General Assembly also created a new code section authorizing alternative contracting methods This section further provides clarifying cleanup language with lines 53 and 54, reaffirming the department's authorized rulemaking, which we'll talk about a change to that in a second, to implement these procedures. And the rest of the lines further clarify the statute's original intent to apply these restrictions on contract value and frequency to what is known as the CMGC, the Construction Management and General Contractor Method, which is the alternative contracting method. With that, I will elevate, or I guess illuminate what I'm calling the Dolezal-McLaurin Amendment, a rare thing in the chamber when you will see a Dolezal-McLaurin Amendment. But we worked with the Appropriations Chairman, GDOT, and the President Pro Tem's council through clarifying further that this essentially what would happen is these design build projects, which is the alternative contracting method, they don't have a bid. They don't have a design to put out to bid. They hire a firm to do both. They then have a third party who reviews the costs, and if the third party kind of flags the costs, it allows GDOT to run everything through a competitive bid process if the alternative contracting method does not come into be. And then lastly, the second change you'll see on this Dolezal-McLaurin Amendment is on line 64 to truly encapsulate what we think is the rare need to go above the 5% mentioned there. We changed 10-year to 100-year, and that's what we worked with our Appropriations Chairman on there and his great work in negotiating that deal with GDOT. Section 4, this section is conforming cleanup, and you'll see this in the title as well, to reflect changes to federal law that authorizes modular or sectional housing units to be transported up to a length of 80 feet. This does not impact the authorized weight. Section 5, this section seeks to further grant ability to a coroner or a county medical examiner to delegate their authority to qualified personnel in the field at the site of an accident which causes significant disruption to the flow of traffic. The aim of this discretion is to delegate, this discretion to delegate is due to the reality of the recurring difficulty of coroners to access these sites due to backed up traffic, which further compounds the ability to resolve and clear the scene of an accident to reopen lanes. And lastly, Section 6, lines 106 to 109, seek to make it absolutely clear that no one can abuse the Open Records Act to try and get personal information about a driver's location, travel history through the state, either directly or indirectly through a data vendor. With that, Mr. President, I'm happy to answer any questions, and if not, if there are none, I'll yield the will.
You do have questions, Senator. Senator from the 25th.
Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
Would this not allow the medical examiner or coroner to authorize an EMT or a paramedic to pronounce someone dead at the scene so that they can go ahead and start moving traffic to clear
That's
the scene?
exactly the intent of this, Senator. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Recognize the Senator from the 1st.
Does the Senator yield?
I do.
Thank you. Just to follow up on that, and this would happen only, the delegation of that power would happen only when there is delay of traffic or an emergency situation in which you have to, from a safety standpoint, move the body to the side of the road or move the accident to the side of the road. Only in emergency and extreme situations.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no further questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yield the will.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hearing none. Time to take up the Amendment 1, which is authored by the senator, the author of the bill, the senator from the 27th. Is there objection to Amendment 1 being adopted? Without objection, Amendment 1 is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none, and the report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill as amended. All those in favor will vote yea. All those opposed, nay. Secretary will not lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed as amended. Recognize the majority leader for a motion.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and I enjoyed the full debate of those bills today. Good work, Senators. I move that the Senate stand adjourned until 10 a.m. on Tuesday, January the 30th.
The majority leader has moved. Secretary, read the announcements.
The Rules Committee will meet immediately upon adjournment in 4:50. The Agriculture and Consumer Affairs Committee will meet at 1 p.m. in 4:50. The Health and Human Services Committee will meet at 2:30 p.m. in 4:50. The Finance Committee will meet at 3 p.m. in Mez 1, and the Judiciary Committee will meet at 4 p.m. in 307 of the CLOB. The Transportation and Government Oversight Committee meetings were canceled for today. That completes the order, Mr. President.
I recognize the minority leader, Senator from the 55th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, I want to bring your attention to Wear Red Day, which is on Thursday, February 5th. You can wear your red dress, or you can wear a red tie, a red pin, that's a dress, but wear something red. And then the other thing I'd like to announce, and I'll probably get reprimanded for doing it, those of us who have birthdays and we're not here, we can't be recognized. So David Cook had a birthday on Saturday, and I think he ought to say happy birthday to him.
All right, happy birthday, Mr. Secretary. Recognize the Senator from the 19th for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senators, and we anticipate that the House should likely finish up with an amended budget next week sometime. So if you will, those of you on the Appropriations Committee probably need to hold February 7th and 8th. Most likely those will be the days we begin and start running through our subcommittee process with, if any work is needed later on, to roll into the 9th and then on to the 12th the next day. You don't have to have a license to attend. You're all invited. Thank you a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, the majority leader has moved. Hey, also, I've heard a lot of sniffling and sneezing in here, so please remember to wash your hands there. Be mindful of everybody here, so please do that. Majority leader has moved. All those in favor of the majority leader's motion will signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes clearly have it. Have a good day.